Look, we all know that it is a lot of fun to be doing this.
We all know that Bleed Vex might be in contention for, I think, the most powerful single ever thing in Borderlands, to the point that the training dummy can't even display the damage you're doing properly. So I'm not about to sit here and go, guys, I've discovered bloodletter. But I am going to sit here and say that what I'm about to present is not just the best endgame Vex build, not just the best build, honestly, likely in the game, but the build that will dominate Ultimate Vault Hunter rank 5, where every enemy has 350% more health, even if you don't have the Penetrator Augment knife, or more importantly, even if it gets nerfed somehow. Because let's be honest, it is a little bit strong. If you don't actually know what's happening, basically when you use the crit knife, it makes the dot crit. If the dot crit, it then activates another dot, but even stronger. So it just self-perpetuates forever. You don't even need to fire if you keep just chaining the knives. So it just builds and builds and builds and builds. Which means that any single weapon, as long as you have bloodletter in your skill tree, you just do a bit of damage and the knife will eventually make it so that you reach infinite damage. All a build does to abuse that is just give it a bigger jump start, which isn't really something I want to sit here and go, ta-da, bloodletter, big damage, boss dies, woo! Hence why I want this build to not just be a best version of bloodletter, big damage, boss dies, ta-da, but also incredibly fun, potent, and effective in the hardest mode of the game without abusing that. Even though, of course, we still will righteously abuse it, because let's be honest, I hope they don't nerf it. It's a single-player game. Have fun, right? So, let me show you what I mean. And obviously, this is an ultra endgame build video, so I'm going to assume you've seen and done all the bosses in the game. This is the second vault, and obviously using the knife, melty, okay, all well and good. However, not using the knife, and this also means not using a different ordinance for a different buff, you just, well, full auto infinitely burr him down in about 15 seconds. Which, to say it's not abusing anything, none of the broken skills, interactions, or guns, just pure mechanical damage, this is so good. And note the infinite ammo synergy with the Incarnate form. You're just permanently firing this high fire rate damaging assault rifle. Timekeeper phase 1 here in just 10 seconds from literally holding left click in his general direction. This is so good. But obviously once you then include, the Ordinance for the bleed critting, everything doth do delete. But I think this is a really good build for just general clearing through trash. You just vaguely wave it at any non-boss enemy and you just watch them utterly disintegrate. And I think one thing to really highlight in these clips is look at my health and how it's not going anywhere. You take a lot of damage in Ultimate Vault Hunter 5, but I'm just not. I'm just tanking it, I'm healing through it, and it doesn't matter. This build is a mechanic avoiding machine by simply ignoring the mechanics. So, ultimately, this build has one final thing that I think any good build should have, and that is that it goes... Oh yes, the perfect mix of damage and fire rate woven into Incarnate form, building up a veritable mountain of buffs as you never have to reload. Yeah, this thing is something I'm very proud of, and I cannot wait to share it with you, so I'm not going to wait. Let's get into this, starting with, actually, the weapon. Now, the reason I want to start with the weapon before the skill tree is a lot of choices in the skill tree will make more sense when we know the weapon that we're building around. So this thing is really cool. The Whiskey Foxtrot. It's an assault rifle, but very importantly, it blazes out nearly 20 bullets a second. And what this build needs is bullets per second, but it also needs high raw damage per bullet to scale the bleed off, so an SMG tends to be a little bit too weak on that front. So this specifically then is the lovely, sweet middle spot. And the scrap cannon an underbarrel is also really nice to amp our damage even more if you just fire it off before laying into the boss. Though, of course, if you're using the old Penetrator Augment, you don't really need any damage help, but it is what it is. So, essentially, you don't need to get this, but this is what I would specifically recommend. But what you're looking for is a nice blend of fire rate and damage, either from an assault rifle or an SMG, most likely. So this then is gotten from a order bunker, and it's the one in the center city, and it's this one right here, the Iron Wall Resolve, and you want to be getting it from Directive O. Now, do note there are quite a few versions of this that can drop. This is another one here that got a little bit of Jakobs on it, much less damage per shot, so not quite as good as this one here, which is a particularly nice specimen. I would recommend getting one with the Ripper licensed magazine, as the ideal enhancement we will be using is a Ripper one because it's 50% more damage from the infinite firing we will be doing. So it may take a little bit of rolling for you, and sometimes you don't get scrap cannon either, so this is kind of the ideal one you're aiming for. So now that you know that, let's get into the skill tree. Here we are then. This is obviously an Incarnate build, and the first thing we're going to get is Grave Sights. 15% crit damage per stack, it's a kill skill, and that's a lot of critical hit damage, 45%. It'll go up even more because we're going to increase the max stacks of our kill skills, which means that, yeah, this is a kill skill build, though with a little bit extra going on. Now, you might be like, okay, that's all well and good for, like, clearing trash and stuff, but how does this really help on bosses? You can't really stack it well enough from the side guys running in, and even then that's going to slow you down because you're killing them and not the boss. We want speed farming here. Well, fear not, because we will end up getting Mortal Terror. This will give you a 5% chance on crit to activate all of your kill skills, which sounds low, but in practice, it's really, really not. That's why we have such a high fire rate weapon. We want volume of bullets going in, volume of crits, so statistically speaking, we will be triggering this loads. That's how you get that wall of buffs up straight away that I've already showed you. So, this is a really, really nice synergy, and because of the knife, every hit is a crit, so it's not even like you need to just be hitting the crit spot to trigger this. We'll also be talking about target prescience in a moment too, which will help with the whole thing. In any case, we then want to get Grave Implements for stacking gun damage from a kill skill, and then we want Grave Power so our kill skills can get 3 extra stacks. We want, of course, to get Bloodletter to its highest it can be to max out that bleed, and then we come down here and grab Drink Full. This is just a lot of fire rate as we pump out those rounds. We then grab the aforementioned Mortal Terror. So just to take a little break here and show you how effective this is, look for these two symbols, the gun arrow up, the skull arrow up. As we get ourselves in those crits, you'll see that very quickly you start to stack them up. We have 3 stacks of each from our first magazine used. That's really, really good. So it won't take long at all in actual combat to be just making these kill skills happen, and then you're getting huge amps. 120% gun damage from here, and 15% on 6 stacks crit damage here. After this then, we want to get Grave Vitality. This is again a kill skill, again you'll be getting 13 stacks of it, which is 13% of your health per second back, never mind the maximum health capacity. And because we will be rocking with Timekeeper's new shield, this just gives us pure health, which is why we're so hard to kill, why I can just ignore every boss mechanic even on Ultimate Vault Hunter 5. It is a beautiful synergy. In any case then, we want to grab Essence Leech. This gives us 10% lifesteal, which again works lovely into just having a huge health bar along with Grave Vitality, and then we get Blood is Power to convert our lifesteal into kinetic damage. We will have 20% lifesteal during our Incarnate, which is then another 60% gun damage. Heartpiercer is going to be our Capstone, so we have those lovely piercing waves. The health cost is irrelevant because we have so much regen coming in. It's a nice little bit of extra damage to the build, and most importantly, it has no cooldown, which means we can spam it and it pierces, so it's easy to hit things, and that's important because of Witchy Triggerfinger, our Augment. So not only will this give us 45% more gun damage from the stacking, every time you do damage with this, you restore the ammo in your gun. That's how we get the infinite ability to fire. So instead of just having to blast through the initial ammo and then do a slow reload, we can go into our Incarnate form and just keep firing. As long as you hit anything with damage before you spend all your bullets, you get to just annihilate what is in front of you, and it's so much fun to play. It's such a nice little setup. In any case then, we still have points remaining, and this is where we have to get very delicate with what we choose. So, you basically have an initial choice to make here. We either want to put 5 points in target prescience, as you then gain a 15% chance to crit no matter where you hit. Now that sounds like it might be a waste of points. We have the crit knife, and if you're confident in your aim, that's all well and good, and if that is the case, then don't do this. But if you want this build to be as comfortable and as easy as possible, and when you are blasting down bosses, a lot of them have finicky crit spots or gimmicky ones, you have to create them, or you have to work for them. It's not just as simple as shoot the head that starts there at the start of the fight. This lets you really amp your damage up by being able to just generally shoot at them and hit crits to then trigger Mortal Terror. You see, if I go out of this and then just shoot the bottom of it, look how many times that critical pops up, and that's just a 15% chance. And if you look, we are already up to 3 stacks of our kill skills from just body 15% chance crits. That's really, really nice. So the numbers sound low, but in practice, this adds so much consistency and therefore overall DPS to the build, so it is what I would recommend, but if your pride won't allow it, then get full points in material components. As it is, we just put the 2 points in to get an extra 14% to kinetic damage and 8% to our bleed, and then the final single point is going to go in guns and needles, as with all our kill skills that we're triggering, this will mean that our rep kit literally has no cooldown. As soon as it comes off cooldown, you'll instantly reset it and then can use it again, which is important because our rep kit is giving us very powerful buffs in this build. Which means, yes, this is a full 49 points into Incarnate. Don't get me wrong, I would love to be able to grab something like Enchantment, I'd love to be able to get Portents of Suffering, but there's just too much we need. I'd love to fill out Leeching Attunement for more lifesteal and reload speed to funnel into Blood is Power. I'd love to finish material components. Hell, I'd love to finish guns and needles, but until DLC comes along and we get more levels, this is kind of where it's at, and you've been seeing how effective it is. So then, when it comes to specializations that'll make a few other things clear, especially this guns and needles point, well, this is where we're at. You want 20 points into Brute, so we can then get Riddle You this for a load more gun damage. You want to get 10 points into Sharpshooter, so we can then grab Killer, which then lets us take Contamination, which is incredibly important because it's lots and lots of bleed application chance. Then Killer is probably your best bet for just general end points if you've got any left over after getting the required nodes. Grab yourself 10 points in Runner, so that we then unlock Daredevil, get 10 points in Daredevil to then get Now with Caffeine. This will mean that our rep kit, which remember basically has no cooldown, then puts our Incarnate off cooldown. We only have to use it a couple times, and we will be back in Incarnate form. This then lets the build have like 70% Incarnate uptime, which is really good for just generally operating in the world, and a really good use of one of these perks. Your final one then can can be anything. I like Bullet Train because you're always kind of walking, so you just get 15% extra gun damage. If you like to ADS, In the Zone is really, really strong. Hell, there's even an argument maybe for Tripwire, so you can knife more often, same from Gadgeteer, but I found that Bullet Train is quite nice, so that's what I use. But this fourth one is up to you, as long as you've got Now with Caffeine, Contamination, and Riddle You This. That's where it looks like, and as I said, any leftover points, just pump them in Killer, though don't go too far, because you will hit diminishing returns, so a bit more in Brute, a bit more in Daredevil will serve you well too. So for your equipment then, we've already been over your Whiskey Foxtrot, that's the one to go. I will say that there will be times that you run out of assault rifle ammo because of how fast this fires, so you don't want to be collecting it while fighting. You want to make sure that you do have max assault rifle ammo on your storage deck upgrades, but other than that, you can have a backup gun that doesn't use assault rifle ammo, like the best SMG you can find, just in case. It's very, very rare with how much damage it does. You don't need to overfire, and we'll get to that in the how to play it tip section, but in any case, your Whiskey Foxtrot. Then I'd also recommend a Jakobs shotgun that has this spread launcher alt fire. I'm sure you've seen it. It's ridiculous, and it's the best, most efficient way to just throw a knife and then fire and delete the boss, no matter what you're doing. It's nice to have on hand, as it's a really, really good abuser of bloodletter. But your primary is, of course, your Whiskey Foxtrot. After that, then, we have the main 5. Of course, the grenade is going to be your knife with the penetrator augment for all of those crits, and the damage amp payload for an extra 15% damage taken by the target. Ideally, the bloodthirsty here would be 20% less cooldown on grenades, so that would be the perfect one to look out for. For your enhancement then, remember you want to get the Ripper License magazine on your Foxtrot, where you want High Roller, so we get an extra 50% damage from the 25 stacks, and then as the actual effects, you want status effect chance, damage with your gun, your crit damage, assault rifle damage, anything that helps what you're doing, but status effect chance is probably ideal, and also magazine size is quite ideal, and that's the thing we'll talk about in a second. After that, we want very specifically Timekeeper's new shield to have a huge raw health bar to feed into our lifesteal and life regen. It's the by far best way to go. I really want a level 50 version, but it just won't drop, and the damage reduction is excellent too. For your rep kit then, you want very specifically something with Enrage that just increases our damage by 30%. This is why we want it off cooldown all the time, and then you want either Go Gadget for more knives, so you can spam them on every enemy through the map, or you want something like Fire Rate, which is nice too, or Tank for 50% damage reduction, though as you've seen we're already ridiculously tanky, and ideally it would be an Order Rep kit that's got 2 charges. Then we want ourselves your class mod, and all that matters here is 5 ranks to bloodletter, and then anything else is a bonus. Status effect damage is good, reload speed is good, basically anything that just adds a percent to something that's helpful to the build will be all good for you. Then when it comes to your firmware, we want 3 out of 3 Deadeye. The accuracy is really nice, it turns it into a proper laser beam, the crit damage is obviously wonderful for our purposes, and then another 5 stacks of 15% critical damage is ridiculous. It just works so well. Then for the other 2 slots, you want 2 out of 3 on bullets to spare. The fire rate is nice, but the gun magazine size is really what we're after. See, this thing fires so many bullets so quickly. Well, let's go on to your tips and generally how to play it. So normally this weapon has a 60 magazine size. The issue is it fires so fast that you can find yourself having to manually reload even in Incarnate mode because you can't fire your blasts off quick enough. So if I go in with this extra magazine size taking me to 85, well, I'll always be able to do my wave, stack my witchy trigger finger, and have it auto-restore. You see how close it can sometimes get? So if there isn't a target for you or you miss, you can end up having to manually reload, so you do want to carefully manage that. Keep an eye on how much ammo you've got in your magazine, and make sure you're hitting these blasts so you can just keep firing the entirety of Incarnate. Now we're out of Incarnate, Incarnate, as you'll see, we hit our rep kit and take a huge chunk of cooldown off it. And that also gives us our huge damage buff and the extra cooldown reduction on our knife to start doing all of that shenanigans. Now our rep kit is off cooldown, we will attempt to trigger the kill skill that will, there we go, immediately it restores it to availability, which then fully gets us our Incarnate back, and that's kind of the cycle that you're playing with. So your main damage is obviously just going to be throw the knife in, use your rep kit, and then blast away while doing your Eldritch Blast, and the damage will of course roll and roll and roll. But you don't need the knife, you just walk around doing this laser beam, just generally pointing it in the direction of enemies like this, and it's just so much fun. Oh my god. And then bosh, and it's already down to 30-second cooldown. I really, really love the synergies going on here. It's easy to play, it's comfortable, and it's so much fun. So there we have it, everyone. It's all come together. Massive damage, massive fire rate, near permanent Incarnate, ridiculous amount of health that makes you nigh impossible to kill with all of the damage reduction and regen coming in. Still, of course, righteously abusing bloodletter and the knife, but giving you an actual bit of backbone for when we don't use the knife, or if the knife gets changed. This really is my favourite Vex build so far, and it's just so much fun to play. And now that we have covered the peak of bloodletter abuse, well, we can now look at some other build options. Have a play with Trouble, use our summons, and generally have a fun time. Let me know which other tree you'd like me to focus on next, because of course, more builds will be on the way. There's other ridiculous things available. For now though, like you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more, consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a good
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.